So you interview Jason Collins, and then how long did you have from the moment of that interview to craft the story and then go back to him and refine it before it had to be published?
It's funny. I mean, my instinct is sort of once he had agreed to do this, and we were, he was very clear, and there was no hesitation. My instinct was, we don't sit on this. I mean, just the internet exists. Let's just get it up there. And he, I think a lot of people sort of said, let's take our time here, and there's no rush. He was very concerned. I think I'm at liberty to say this. He was concerned that Celtics, for whom he played most of this season, were having their first game in Boston on that Friday night, the 26th. It was their first game after the marathon. And Jason was very concerned that if this story came out, it would divert attention from that occasion. So he really wanted to wait, and that was fine with us. And the story was quite easy. I mean, it was a first-person piece, and we arrived there. For as many times as you talk to a subject, and it's pulling teeth to get a quote that you can use, he was, he had thought about this. He knew what he wanted to say. He knew what he wanted to emphasize, what he wanted to de-emphasize. I mean, he had a lot on his mind, which I think was one of the reasons he'd chosen this route anyway. So, we spoke probably that first day for 3-4 hours, and came up with a draft, and he had a couple of changes, and it was certainly a process like that. But I was afraid the whole time that one person sends out a tweet and suddenly we all lose ownership of this. But luckily that didn't happen.
In the course of those first 3 or 4 hours, did you detect much nervousness from him about what the reaction would be?
None. I mean, there was. He was funny and he was emotional, and there were serious moments and there were playful moments, and I think that he felt very relieved. But there was I got no nerves whatsoever, no sense of second. There were no doubts. This is something he was absolutely steadfast about doing. He'd given this great thought, and I think he knew the significance. I don't think he knew that before he ate lunch that day, Obama, Oprah, and Bill Clinton would all have called him, but I think he knew that this had the potential to really change, I don't want to say life-changing, but really sort of change his identity and how he was going to be viewed. He knew all that. There was no sort of naivete here, and he, for as many sort of this range of emotions in those 3-4 hours, nerves did not really enter it.
We're talking with John Wertheim. He's a senior writer for Sports Illustrated, has been with the magazine for some 17 years. He was one of the key folks involved in putting together the Jason Collins story that is the cover story of Sports Illustrated. So, John, you have this interview with him, April the 24th, 3 or 4 hours. What was the first thing then that you said to your Sports Illustrated colleagues back in New York and who were about the magazine and how to put this together and what you had?
Well, candidly, very, very few people knew about this. I mean, this was kind of a top-secret operation. There were really only 2 of us in the office that even knew this was going on. And, it's funny, we had the photo shoot. Once I knew that he was going to follow through and we had something here and he was comfortable, I arranged this photo shoot very hastily for Thursday. I didn't tell the photographer even what the subject, what this was about. So we're looking back. I wonder what this photographer was thinking going to this house in Los Angeles for a potential cover photo shoot with a guy who'd played, 11 minutes for the Washington Wizards in the last game. But no, this was really sort of because of the nature of this and how fearful, some of this was sort of media stuff, but also out of respect to Jason. I mean, we were all very, very wary of any sort of leak. So it was a very small circle until the day before we pushed the button on this.